We are live, and I've got Amy with me today, and she has asked me to play this song. 25 years and my life is still trying to get a great big healer of hope for a destination. So I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out. What's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And I say, hey, 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 hey. I said, hey, what's going on? I did say I wasn't going to sing the whole song, didn't I?
Love that. Thank you. So many great memories.
And that is my first question, Amy. Why did you pick that song?
Well, two reasons. Firstly, because I first heard it when I was at university. So it's just brought back loads of fun, screaming at the top of our lungs, what's going on, it's kind of chants across, getting ready for going out in the evening or coming back from nightclubs or just walking through the streets. So loads of fun. But more recently, they've used it in one of a great shows that I've been watching on Netflix called Sense8, and it's a really good sort of anthem that they use as a running theme through the show. So, and it's on theme. What's going on? Focus on why. What's it all about? Let's go there.
Perfect. You've put a bit of thought into that, haven't you, Amy? I've been so looking forward to having you on my show. I've been on your show. I'm a big fan of your show. You do so tell us a little bit about yourself and specifically this show I'm talking about.
Well, the show is called Focus on Why, and I launched it back in lockdown at the beginning of April. So 30th of April was when it launched. 1st of April was when I had the idea of it. And it's all about why people do what they do. It's to help people who are in that sort of weird time in their lives. So I call it the midlife beginning stage, where you kind of realize that there is more to life than currently is. And it's like, well, what are other people doing? Let me just see whether I can see and listen and be inspired by others, and then really focus on what's going on for them. So it's really relevant.
No, it certainly is. And how many episodes have you done, Amy?
Oh, well, almost, not quite, but just shy of 300. So the 21st of September, I will be sharing a great episode, which will be a compilation episode from some past guests, some future guests, and some listeners of the show, just talking about the strength of purpose. That's the theme for episode 300.
You actually put thought into that as well. That's fantastic. You're going to be disappointed with this show because there's no thought gone into it whatsoever. There's a few random questions, but that's it. So I listen to podcasts, right? And someone said, oh, listen to this podcast. And I listen to it. And it's great. And then they stop. And then so I go and listen to another one. And it's like, oh, no, they're relaunching. They're doing another podcast. Oh, brilliant. And they just do 1 or 2 episodes and I've not heard anything again. And so how on earth have you managed to do 300, Amy?
Well, firstly, 2 reasons. A lot of people don't realize quite how much is involved in a podcast, and there is a need to give your listeners that continuity. So some people record in episodes and it's episodic, and other people, they do it in batches and they do it in seasons or series. And what happens is you build your podcast listening as a habit. So you have a regular time, likely, that you listen to your podcast. So if you go to then listen to an episode and it's not there, you have to find something else for that moment. So you might then lose your podcast. The podcaster will lose their listeners because it's not there as part of their habit. So I always knew right from the outset that it had to be something that was consistently there. And if I was going to change my schedule to give people notice and say it's now going to move from this, and I always give it like a month's notice of that change of schedule. I remember you reaching out to me, go, hey, what am I going to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays when you move it to Wednesdays and Fridays? But that was kind of the thing. It's just letting people know. But the reason people do drop off is called pod fade, is because there is a lot of work, and it's about having that clear purpose to the show. And for me, this show is a lifelong project. It's not going to go away because there are people, and the purpose are always going to be a great combination.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And I've known you for a long time, and you just get on and do it. You're like a machine. But your podcasts are great, and you have some amazing, absolutely amazing guests. I think that my favorite was the Arch to Arc
Yes, that's
So
right. Chris Leak.
tell us a little bit about Chris.
Oh, episode 23. And he literally ran from Marble Arch down to Dover. He then swam the channel without a wetsuit, and then he cycled to the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
And he actually broke the world record for that combination. And that episode is still one of my favorites. I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, like having favorite children, but that episode is phenomenal, episode 23. And it really depicts purpose at work. And he had a very clear purpose. I'm not going to share too much because it will spoil it, but it's very emotional. Chris gets really upset in the retelling of that journey that he goes on and the reasons why. And it is really powerful. So listen to that, because it really explains how deep purpose can run through yourself, through your very being, and how you can think about the bigger picture sometimes.
No, absolutely fantastic. Zoe's just following you now. So there you go. You've got another fan.
Yay. Thank you, Zoe.
Zoe's lovely. Zoe's been on my show as well. And you also had, if I remember rightly, someone come on your show and they actually played the guitar on your show.
Do you know, I can't for the life of me think who that might have been. Yes, indeed, you did. Thank you so much. It was fabulous, actually. It was really special because, you know, I don't think I had music on at that point before, you know, a little bit of singing. I have had some guests do impressions and various other things, but actual music playing, I think you were the first. So thank you, actually.
No, but then again, it wasn't rehearsed or anything. It was like, oh, I just pick it up. And yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Anyway, we're here to talk about what you do on LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff. So you do an awful lot on LinkedIn. Do you use other social media?
Yes, very much. So I enjoy Instagram. I've been dabbling with the Reels feature there, which has been great fun. And I also use Facebook, less so, but it's still there, and a little bit of Twitter. But the two main platforms are LinkedIn and Instagram. But LinkedIn is my favorite.
Oh, I like it when you say that. But again, you're not allowed to have favorite. So hang on. Oh, you've got two kids, haven't you? Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. You can do various things on TikTok where they get you to point at the child with the questions that they ask. And my son still won't forgive me for saying that my daughter was funnier. And I don't know why I did it, because he is actually funnier. It was just one of those moments where I panicked, and he still reminds me now. It's hilarious. But no, neither of them are more funny than the other. How could that possibly be?
No, it can't be. My mind always say, I'm your favorite though, aren't I, Dad? And it's like all the time. Why do you like LinkedIn then?
I think it's just a clean feed. It's nice because I know how to navigate it. I've been using it for a while, since October 2012, and I know that date because LinkedIn tells you that date. So it's 17th of October 2012. But I started using it for very different reasons to why I currently use it. It has definitely evolved as I've sort of understood the way that the platform works, and I just really enjoy it because it's got, as I said, a clean flow of content, and I love the connections. I mean, it's just fantastic for a podcaster and also for myself as a life purpose coach to be able to connect with people all around the world. And that is a pivotal part of the work that I do, is to be able to have a connectedness and that sense of connection with people and have conversations. It's not just a case of I'm putting out content and please read this, please read this. It's building genuine relationships with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Zoe, who was on who I shared her comment earlier, she does exactly the same. And that's the thing. It is about building relationships and connecting with people. And that's I think people don't see that when they come onto LinkedIn. But once you've been here a while, you're sort of like, oh yeah, and then you get introduced to all these other people. It is absolutely incredible. So how much time do you reckon you spend daily on LinkedIn then, Amy?
Oh, good question, because it's a bit of a rabbit hole sometimes. At least half an hour to an hour, I would say.
Wow. Okay. Cool. But it shows, because you're doing great things and you're making those lovely connections. And I'm guessing with your podcast, you probably got your guests booked up for quite a way in advance, haven't you?
Yeah, for the end of this year. I'm now booking in early 2023.
No way. That is crackers. That's
Well,
cracking.
when I first started, Ashley, I got so excited when I launched the show, and it was through that April. Everyone was available, and I
Yep.
recorded 30 episodes before the show went live. And I thought, okay, well, if that's one a week, it's going to be almost the end of the year before those episodes get heard. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just push as many out as I can, as quickly as I can. And then more and more people keep coming to me. I get recommended people, I get pitched daily. And so I was like, well, how am I going to accommodate all these incredible people in the world to share their stories, to share their why on the show? So I at the first time, for several months, I was doing 3 one week for the following, because I would do my reflections after every 6 episodes. And then I had to sort of drop it down, and I was doing 2 a week. And now I've dropped it to just 1 a week, because quite frankly, it would be nice to have a life again. No, I'm kidding. But it has been an incredible project. And 1 a week now means obviously that people are going to have to queue to get on.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Why podcasting?
Oh, it's a great medium. It's so good. I love the ability to connect with people. And it sounds strange because I'm talking into a mic and no one is talking back to me when I do my reflections episodes, solo episodes. When I've got the episodes where I'm with my guests, it's a fantastic one-on-one relationship. What I see happening and what I know is happening is that people are then listening to their episodes in their own space, in their own time, and doing what they love doing. And so they are listening in a way that really helps them to absorb what's going on without the distraction of the visual. So when you've got a different platform and you've got, say, for example, YouTube or Facebook or even here on LinkedIn, you've got the visual as a bit of a distraction. So then you've also got the device that you're on. So other messages are coming in and pinging. But when people listen to podcasts, they particularly are already doing something else like driving or exercising or walking. So they don't tend to be distracted. And so they're really taking on board what you're saying. So, and as a result of that, I call it like you're the soundtrack to people's movies. So they've got their own world going on, and then you're providing the sound to it.
No, I love that. That's absolutely amazing when you stop and think about it. Yeah, because people watching this now, they're doing something in the background, or this is on in the background when they're doing that. So we haven't got their 100% attention, have we, Zoe? whereas you accompany me on my walks around Sidmouth.
Yeah, I know. You tell me it's
yeah.
great. I love hearing that. And there's been times when I've been out on people's paddle boards, and suddenly, they've got their Amy in the middle of a lake somewhere, which is just, how cool is that? It's great. I mean, this is the thing. This is a visual representation of what the podcast is. So there is where it's being listened to. Clearly, you can't see all the individual
Look
people.
at all of those dots. How many dots have you got there?
So there are 114 countries, but I've also got several dots where there are multiple states, for example, in America. So yeah, that is the podcast in a visual representation.
I love that. Oh, that must be so.
But that helps me to understand. That helps me to process that when I'm talking into this particular device here, I know that there are people all over the world, and that just grounds me and just reminds me of the potential ripple effects that are going to happen as a result, and of the connectedness of how it's a little bit smaller, this world, than can be.
Yeah, no, and I think we've found that over COVID and lockdown, haven't we? With getting out there on Zoom and doing other medium, we sort of like our world was just as far as we could go in the car in a day. And now we can be anywhere, like you say, all over the world. That is just amazing. So do you get fan mail?
I do get fan mail. I get a few notes in the post, literally, which is just always a surprise. I had one from all the way from America, and I'm just trying to remember which state it is. I forget. But I also have messages, DMs all the time, and just want to reach out and say, this is what I think of the show, and this is what I've done. I had one lady who reviewed, I think it was like 8 episodes, and posted it on LinkedIn the other day. She'd listened to them and just gave it a sort of a précis of each one. And that, I mean, how cool is that? I mean, it's just epic. It really is, to know that not only are people listening, but they're then taking actions. They're then thinking about how that can apply to their lives.
Yeah, and that's what your Reflections with Actions episodes are all about. And yeah, they're brilliant. Okay, so you talk about why. Okay, and a lot of people struggle with that. Can you break that down and make it easy for us to understand, and why we should be thinking about our why and what it is and how it works?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to sort of courage. It comes down to commitment. It comes down to compassion. It comes down to contribution. So there's lots of C's there. But it's all about what it is that you have to offer the world that people will take on board and will make their lives a better pace. And for you, you get the fulfillment. So as a result of that, I often talk about helping people to create lives that are fulfilling instead of just filling in the moments. And it's such a great position to be, because when you are living in this space of purpose, in this world of knowing that what you're doing has a greater piece to it, and it doesn't have to be on a global level, it could be on a really local level or even national level, but you knowing that that contribution to the world is your way of, this is who I am, this is what I can do, this is what I can offer, and it's your uniqueness, and it's a special place to be.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And so do you actually coach people to find their why?
Yeah. So I don't like to say find it. It's more to create it, to choose it, to work with what is already there. So otherwise people think it's down the side of the sofa if you have to look for it.
I had it with me earlier. It was here somewhere.
Exactly.
So you actually spend a bit of time working with people and helping them, and
yeah, absolutely. So we look at values, we look at strengths, we look at sort of passions, we look at what they've been doing in the past to help them understand, what has been there as an underlying core of who they are, and helping them to sort of look towards maybe a cause that they want to champion. That's often the way that it could be, that it's something that they really are passionate about and would like to affect change. It's something that may anger them. Quite often it's something that said, oh, someone should do something about that. Why not you? So it's a case of, looking at loads of different pieces of the jigsaw and bringing them together. And then people really understand, okay, then they can put together a plan and off they go. They can focus on what they want to achieve.
Brilliant. No, super duper. And is that one-on-one? Is that a group coaching? How do we get involved?
I work one-to-one. I love working one-to-one because it is so personal to what you want to do, and your strengths and your individual unique positioning is all about what you want to do. And yes, there could be some collaboration there, or another C, in terms of who you could work with. Quite often the UN goals are a great place to start, because there are some fantastic different goals there that may inspire you to say, actually, that's something that I want to champion. That's where I'd like to work. And then they can look and see how they could work in a local level, as I said, national or global, and they can step up from there.
No, fantastic. So we've gone on down all these different holes here. I've got one more question to ask you about LinkedIn. Do you get business from what you do on LinkedIn?
I would say probably sometimes, not directly, because people check out my profile out and then they will go and listen to the podcast. And so whether it's a bit of a chicken and egg, do they find out about the work I do from LinkedIn, or is it from the podcast? And then they go and look at LinkedIn, and then they can see that there's a lot of repetition and reinforcement that I am still the same person as I am on the podcast, as I am on LinkedIn. So I don't know. I haven't got any stats that say, some people will reach out to me and say, I've seen your work and I want to work with you, or I've listened to the show. And so whether they saw that as a result of an initial post, I can't be certain.
Yeah, but because you're there, people know you are front of mind.
Yeah.
And I guess the podcast, people are listening to that and then reach out to you as well.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, is that, as I was saying earlier, the podcast is very much myself on my own or with a guest. And so how do the listeners connect to me? They use these platforms, particularly LinkedIn, to reach out to me and have the conversations that they want as a result of listening to a particular episode. So that everyone who listens to my show knows that I post about that particular episode on the morning that it goes live. So kind of train people to say, right, if you want to say what you thought about that episode, then they know to go onto the show, onto the platforms, and then say, this is what I've just heard, this is what I've just listened to, this is what I think about it. And so that way I can have the conversations and continue them offline and online, but off the podcast.
I'm with you. Yeah. It's like actually getting to talk to the interviewer.
Yeah, absolutely. and
Yeah,
the guests, because they're always tagged in, so they get the opportunity to reach out to them directly and say, just listen to this particular episode and it's really inspiring or harrowing or whatever has come up for them, but they do get that ability to then connect. And so that's what's so great, is that, you know, often, yes, I know about the connections that people who reach out to me, but I won't hear about all of the connections that people reach out to the guests. And I know lots of work has come from that side as well, which has been great for people.
No, fantastic. And so you also help people create their own podcast as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yes. And that was it's kind of like a sideline. I think I had another podcast before this one, and it was called the Property Vault podcast. Again, it was talking about the practical side of property investing. And I was mentoring and coaching people in property investing. And then when that podcast ended at the beginning of lockdown, and I brought this one into sort of the focus, then it was the life purpose work that I'd also been working on with clients before that came to the fore. And then people kept coming to me and said, well, what about the podcast? Can you help me launch a show as you have? You've launched 2 now. And I was like, okay. And I started working with clients, and then realized, well, actually, this is really good fun, because again, it's the practical side of putting out a show, helping people to launch shows which are purpose driven, people focused, and starting for the right reasons, and hoping, as you said earlier, that they don't end up in that pod fade world. So absolutely, it made perfect sense. So I do it on a one-to-one basis, but I also do it as a group basis. I call it the launch pod. And so they come in together. We work in a group of 6 and me, so that's 7. And when they're ready to launch their show, they've got the support of their pod to do that.
Oh, fantastic. And if that wasn't enough, you also do, how do you squeeze it all in? And you're a mum of 2.
Yes.
So you also do public speaking. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, I'm mum of 2, as you said. One's at university now, and I've got one in the upper 6th of school. So just one more year left at home before he disappears as well. And professional speaking. So I am currently the president of the Southeast region of the Professional Speaking Association, which came about having via LinkedIn, actually, because I was reading Sam Rathling's book, LinkedIn Bound. And in her book, on page 194, I think it was, the old version, I don't know what it is, and then she's just released her new version. And it said, go along to your local PSA region. And so I did. And my goodness, I who knew that, within 2 years, I would then be the president of that region. But yeah, probably everybody who meets me knows that was always going to be on the cards, because it's a case of, once I say I'm going to do something, off I go and take it on full. But I really enjoy LinkedIn, and I really enjoy the Professional Speaking Association. So I get a lot of opportunity to, again, meet people from all around the world, because it's got affiliations with the Professional Speaking Associations across all the different countries. And we've got a big global speaking summit in Dublin, where the PSA UK and Ireland are hosting it in end of September, October, which is going to be a fantastic event.
Wow. Amy, we've gone over the 15 minutes. I do apologize.
Oops.
But we were never going to stick to 50 minutes. Kasimba's also watching. Look, so hi, Kasimba, very much. Thank you for joining in. You should write a book, but I guess you're not going to have time to do it, are you? Because you're so busy doing everything else.
I do have time to do it, because it is now becoming a priority. So I've actually got 4 books that I know I want to write for sure. And so I just need to start on the one, and I've freed up some time in my week to do that.
Wow. You heard it here first, ladies and gents. 4 books.
Well, I started writing, and then I realized there was 4 different business cases and 4 different elements to it. So I was like, okay, actually separate them out and write them separately.
So is that what they call a quadrology? Is that even a word?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there'll be something for that. Yeah, I don't know.
Amy, that is incredible. That is incredible. I could talk to you all day, you know that, but we do have to go. I've got one more question for you, but before I do that, I've got to let everybody know who's coming back, who's coming to see me next week. It's there. It's not there. It's there somewhere. There it is. There we go. I've got the lovely Sarah Farmer who's coming on. So she's a mindset and an imposter syndrome guru, and I can't spell "and," so I'll take that off ever so quickly. I do all this very quickly before my next guest comes on. So anyway,
it's called transposition. It's not that you can't spell; it's that you couldn't type.
That's thank you. Transposition. I have to remember that.
Yeah.
So my last question to you, Amy. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh, that's a great question. If only I'd had some time to think about that answer. I don't know. What would I say? Probably just have the courage of my own conviction. It was something that my teacher said to me when I was about 12, and I didn't understand what it meant. And now I do, a lot older now. But it was all about pursuing dreams and passion and knowing who I am and what I stand for, and not looking elsewhere for that information, but going within instead. So working on personal development was probably what I would help my 16-year-old self do.
And you've done that in spades, because we met on a neuroscience workshop, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I know you've done loads of other learnings and teachings as well. So no, that's a perfect answer, a perfect end to a lovely show. Amy, thank you so much for coming on. It's been lovely to talk with you today. Thank you to everybody for making your comments and watching. And how can people get hold of you, Amy?
Well, LinkedIn, Amy Rowlinson, you'll find me there.
Fantastic. And please, if you go into this at the end, you can actually drop in your episodes of your podcast and let people know where to find you. And maybe we'll have a few more dots on that map of yours.
Lovely. Thank you.
Amy, thanks very
Ashley.
much indeed. You take care. Bye-bye.